Today, we are doing a deep dive into a really powerful roadmap for overcoming, well, just about anything. The wisdom of the motivational icon Les Brown, specifically from his work, It's Not Over Until You Win.
Yep.
Our sources give us this fascinating blueprint for tackling huge life obstacles. And it doesn't matter if you're facing a career change or, a really deep personal challenge. Our mission here is to pull out the core actionable lessons from Brown's own rags to riches story, zeroing in on how tenacity and self-belief can be genuine game changers for you.
And what makes this material so impactful is that direct link, the undeniable connection between Brown's own history of struggle and the practical advice he gives.
Right. He wasn't born with a silver spoon.
Not at all. He was adopted, grew up in a really poverty-stricken area of Miami, and famously was labeled educable mentally retarded in grade school. So when a man transforms his life from that to become a globally renowned speaker, you have to pay attention. He proves victory is possible. You just have to stick to the system he lays out.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If we're going to follow his map, we have to start where he says to start, with our dreams, using them not as, these passive fantasies, but as real navigation tools.
That's it, exactly. Brown says dreams and goals are absolutely fundamental. He calls them your guiding stars. And they're there to help you navigate life's messiness. But more than that, they're catalysts. They force you into action.
Because they give you a reason why.
They give you why. A reason to keep pushing forward when everything else tells you to stop.
But I have to ask, isn't the whole idea of finding your authentic desire sometimes a bit of a distraction? I mean, people struggle because they have bills to pay, schedules to keep, not because they haven't meditated enough. How does Brown bridge that gap between the dream and the daily grind?
That's a great challenge. And he acknowledges that struggle, but he insists the struggle is the point. The power isn't just in, finally achieving the dream. What's so fascinating is the purpose and the direction the pursuit itself gives you.
So it's the process.
It's the process. When you commit to a major goal like Brown committing to being a speaker despite his labels, it forces you to move beyond your current circumstances. Your entire identity shifts. You stop being someone who's just enduring life and become someone who is actively building it.
So the key takeaway is that purpose isn't something you find, it's something you forge. You forge it through the effort. Okay, so what are the actual steps he gives us to make that pursuit tangible?
So he basically breaks it down into a three-part framework. First, deep self-reflection. He encourages these rigorous practices like journaling or just structured mindfulness to dig up what you actually want, not what society or your family expects of you. Second is specificity. Your goals have to be crystal clear. Measurable. I want to be happier is. It's useless. I will increase my sales by 15% this quarter is actionable. You can track it.
And the third step, the one that stops you from getting totally overwhelmed.
That's breaking down goals. You take that huge, scary aspiration and you systematically chop it up into the smallest, most manageable tasks you can think of.
Yeah.
So if the goal's a skyscraper, today's job is just mixing the cement for one single column.
Right. It's about that sense of accomplishment every day.
Exactly. It keeps the engine of motivation running.
So clarity and small, consistent steps. But what happens when the fear is just so overwhelming you can't even see that guiding star anymore? That brings us right to the inner battle.
And that mental landscape is where most of the battles are lost, isn't it? Brown sees fear and self-doubt not as these fleeting emotions, but as ingrained habits.
Habits, wow.
Yeah, patterns of thought that just stifle your potential. They're often running unchecked in the background of your mind, usually rooted in some past negative experience or a belief someone else forced on you, like that label he got as a kid.
It's so much more powerful to think of fear as a habit you can break instead of, a permanent part of your personality. So how does he say we start dismantling them?
He gives us two really crucial techniques for this mental rewiring. The first is visualization, but not just visualizing the outcome, the trophy or the applause.
Right.
You have to visualize the action, the feeling of success. You mentally rehearse yourself overcoming the challenges, handling the anxiety, and just nailing the difficult steps. It builds the pathways for success before you even take a physical step.
So it's not wishful thinking, it's strategic preparation, like mental weightlifting.
Precisely. And the second technique is self-affirmation. This isn't just saying, I am rich, I am rich. It's about crafting very precise, positive statements that you use to consciously replace that negative inner voice.
Like deleting a corrupted file.
It's exactly that. It's the neurological equivalent. You have to say them out loud, repeat them until they embed themselves deeper than all that old programming.
And he also really throws down the gauntlet on the whole comfort zone idea. He doesn't just suggest we leave it, he practically condemns it.
He is unsparing on this. He says comfort zones are breeding grounds for fear, for complacency, and ultimately, for regret. If you always stay safe, you never find out what you're actually capable of.
So you have to actively push your own boundaries.
You do. Take on those small, manageable challenges you'd normally avoid, because every little victory you get outside that safe space, it reinforces a positive self-image. It's objective proof that your self-doubt is factually wrong.
Which makes the next challenge just a little bit less scary.
Exactly. And it's so important to remember this isn't just for people facing huge adversity. Brown makes it clear that even the most successful people deal with this stuff. His own life, from being labeled, mentally retarded to becoming this global voice, is proof that these barriers are universal. And more importantly, they're completely dismantleable.
You just have to do the work, the mental work, which leads us right into the next piece. The bridge between that inner mindset and outward, visible action. All the positive thinking in the world is useless without resilience. How does Brown define that?
Resilience is the bedrock. For Brown, it's not just about being able to endure hardship. That's passive. It's the commitment to actively learn and grow from it.
So a redefinition of failure.
A radical redefinition of failure. Failure is not a destination. It's temporary feedback. It's surmountable.
But does he acknowledge that some setbacks are just crushing? How do you find the energy for relentless action when you feel totally depleted?
Oh, he absolutely gets the depth of it, but he insists on controlling the narrative. He argues that if you can see adversity not as a roadblock, but as a required catalyst for innovation, you shift your energy. You aren't mourning a loss, you're processing vital data.
And we see that in his own story with public speaking. When he first tried to be a radio DJ, he was famously terrible.
He was. Nerves, he froze up. He was told flat out, you don't have it.
But that didn't stop him. That's resilience right there.
It is. His early career was just full of those moments. He was fired multiple times, had so much trouble breaking into the industry. But instead of retreating, he sought out criticism. He found ways to practice in smaller markets until he got there. That persistence just proves his whole action philosophy. The gap between what you desire and what you achieve is bridged only by purposeful, relentless action.
So practically speaking, what does that relentless action actually look like day to day? We can't just tell people to work tirelessly.
No, it needs structure. It requires meticulous planning. First, you have to have a strategic plan. Actionable tasks, realistic deadlines. Brown emphasizes scheduling everything. If it's not on your calendar, it's just a vague idea. But the real secret to keeping relentless is momentum. You maintain that by constantly reviewing your progress. And this is crucial, celebrating the small milestones.
The celebration isn't an indulgence.
Not at all. It's a necessary psychological reward. It's what reinforces the habit of taking action.
And to keep that big picture in mind when you're buried in the daily grind, you need those constant reminders.
Exactly. He suggests using visual prompts. A vision board, a mantra written on a sticky note. Anything that serves as a constant reminder of the why. When you feel drained, that visual cue pulls you back to the larger purpose driving all this work.
That structure is so important, but it brings up the next critical piece, the external factors, your support network. Brown really highlights the role relationships play in all this. Success is never a solo mission, is it?
Never. He says the people we surround ourselves with have this profound impact on our mindset, often in ways we don't even notice. So building a strong support network means finding people who don't just cheer you on. You need people who will inspire you, challenge you, and give you constructive feedback.
The hard truths.
The hard truths you need to hear. And he also puts a huge emphasis on actively seeking out mentorship from people who've already done what you want to do. It just cuts the learning curve dramatically.
And his own personal story. His mother was so central to his resilience.
Absolutely. Her unwavering, unconditional faith in him that became this cornerstone for him, especially after he was given that label in school. That external belief was the safety net he needed when his own internal belief was being attacked by the world.
It gives you the fuel to keep stepping out of that comfort zone. Which leads us to the final act here, the ultimate realization. This is a journey of continuous improvement.
This is the perpetual state of success. You have to acknowledge and celebrate your wins, of course. But Brown's final point is that the journey of self-improvement never ends. Life isn't about one final achievement where you can just stop.
There's always another mountain to climb.
There is always another mountain to climb, another skill to master, another way to contribute. The pursuit itself, that's the definition of success.
So when we put all these pieces together for you, the listener, how do we actually integrate this system?
It creates this closed-loop system of perpetual progress. It starts with defining an authentic, specific purpose. That's your dream. That purpose then demands that you control your inner dialogue with visualization and affirmation. That control allows you to apply disciplined effort through relentless action and resilience. And then finally, you leverage external encouragement from your network. When you complete that cycle, you celebrate, which just fuels the pursuit of the next goal, the next mountain.
That makes the whole process feel so actionable. It's so much more than just think positive. We've covered a lot today. Forging specific goals, mental visualization, self-affirmation, stepping outside the comfort zone, leveraging relationships, and defining resilience as active growth.
Right. Les Brown's wisdom really encourages us to embrace every single part of the journey, especially the failures, especially the mental battles, and to use that progress as the foundation for what comes next. Because as the title says, it really isn't over until you win.
We spent some time talking about the power of visualization that need to mentally align with success by rehearsing the actions you have to take. So think about the biggest, most daunting goal you have right now. If you were to fully visualize that success, not just the outcome, but the specific, maybe even painful actions and the small victories along the way, what is the very first, smallest task you could execute tomorrow morning that proves you've already begun your relentless pursuit? That concrete action, that's your next step.